of these things that we have in common with one another. I just think growing up in a diverse place like Los Angeles was freaking awesome. Like, I would have hated growing up in a place that was, you know, more homogenous, all white, whatever. Like, I just...
Even the food, the fashion,
the culture, the experiences. Yeah.
Yes.
I think one of the best things about LA is how diverse it is, right?
Totally
I would never
agree.
want to change that. But when you start implementing this mindset of, well, this group has been historically bad, and even though the people in this group weren't even around when all the bad things were happening, it's okay.
Even though their
like,
ancestors were in another country at the time.
Exactly. We should demonize all of them because they're all the same, and they all, like, the whole Karen thing. And, like, I remember doing those Karen segments on TYT, and as we were doing them, it just felt gross, but I wasn't quite understanding why I felt what I was feeling. I wasn't confident enough in speaking out and saying, like, oh, these are like private citizens, and yeah, there's video of them behaving poorly, but they're still private citizens, and I don't know, like, what we're accomplishing by ruining their lives, right?
Yeah.
But we were doing those segments, and finally I just kind of talked to my, you know, the founder of TYT, my co-host Cenk Uygur, and I was just like, I don't like these segments. I think it's wrong to, like, target regular people. People make mistakes, and we don't even have the full context of these stories. We don't know what happened before the video started rolling. We don't know a lot. We're just, like, demonizing these people. So we stopped covering those stories, and then finally I felt comfortable enough to, like, do
Can I
this
help you?
lengthy segment about the whole Karen
Have
thing.
a good one.
And I used a
Farewell.
news story to kind of open up that discussion. And the news story had to do with the DEI trainer at Uber. Did you see this story?
No.
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh my God, tell me everything.
So Uber had a DEI trainer. She was Asian, but she sounded pretty awesome because she realized, like, everyone in the workplace should feel comfortable and welcome and all that. And so there were white employees who felt like they were being demonized. They were being called Karens, you know, by other employees. And so they went to the DEI trainer, and DEI trainer is like, you know what? Let's have a conversation. Like, let's have a meeting, and we're going to talk about how, you know, the white female employees are feeling. And it led to an insane backlash. She ends up getting fired for even daring to want to have a conversation about how the white employees are feeling. And the other employees who had a problem with the white employees feeling uncomfortable said that they want to feel free to use phrases like Karen or whatever. And it's like, we're supposed to try to have a comfortable working environment for everybody. You guys want to create a hostile work environment. Like, calling your colleagues Karens is not conducive to a productive work environment. Let's just put it that way. So, like, that story really, like, made me feel confident in finally coming out and talking about how I felt. And that's not to say that, like, racism doesn't exist. Of course it exists. Of course there are white women who do terrible racist things. But there was this, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And it was just, like, perpetuating this narrative to make it seem like all white women are like this. And it's just not the case. And if we're not okay with making generalizations about any group, any marginalized group, maybe we shouldn't make generalizations about white people as well, you know? Because, look, even if you see white people as the ones with all the power, right? They're not the oppressed, okay? They're the oppressors. That's the kind of rhetoric you'll hear.
The country do not feel that way.
Right.
And they really don't appreciate it.
Right.
That's the part where they're like, what power? I'm in debt up to my eyeballs.
Right.
I'm working 24/7.
Yeah. And it's, so my point is, by engaging in that behavior, all it does is it continues to rip the country apart. It gets us further from having a shared identity as Americans. And I'm just sick of it. And I don't indulge in any of that at all. Like, I push back against it. I got in trouble recently with some of our audience members because, you know, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, she's a Republican, and she mispronounced Kamala Harris's name on a CNN panel.
I do that all the time, though, because once you start saying it one way...
Yeah. I mean, I've always said Kamala, so I didn't have that learning curve, but a lot of people said Kamala for many years.
I did.
Including a lot of Democrats.
But like early California years.
Yes,
That's why when you
yes.
didn't really know her. So once you started, you know, when you voted for her for AG and
Yeah.
the Senate, which I did.
Mm-hmm. She wasn't bad back then.
I didn't know that much about her, to be
Yeah.
dead honest with you, but you know, at that time, currently wasn't thinking. I was like, blue, blue, blue.
That's
out
how a
the
lot
door.
of people vote, yeah.
I didn't think.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know he, like, governor. It was Brown, and he raised my taxes 3% retroactively. I was pissed, and then it was Arnold, and I knew him because I knew Maria, and so that was cool, and I didn't care, and then Newsom, and I didn't care until I cared.
Right.
Until everything went to hell in a handbasket, and now you pull your head out of the sand, and you're wondering how it happened. So I've made that mistake. I still make that mistake with her name.
Yeah, and it doesn't automatically mean that you're racist. And the thing is, so in that panel discussion, so she starts off by saying Kamala, and then she thinks she's correcting herself and says Kamala, because she forgot which one was the right one. Because she's actually trying to say the right one. But then as she says Kamala, thinking that she's correcting herself, everyone on the panel jumps on her. And then when people jump on you, what do? You get defensive. So she's like, I'll call her whatever I want.
No.
She shouldn't have said that.
Oh, God.
She should not have said that.
That was a mistake, yeah.
Okay, but like, we are talking about a powerful woman who very likely could be the next president of the United States. Kamala Harris is not oppressed. You're not racist if you say Kamala accidentally instead of Kamala. This is the type of debate that affluent people have because they're comfortable. They're not worried about their health care. They're not worried about finding affordable housing for themselves and their family members. They have the luxury of debating the proper pronunciation of a powerful woman's name. And I'm sick of it. I am so sick of it.
You're spot on. I often reference, I'll say, these people don't have real problems. So I'll hear stories about people who flip out about nothing, you know, and it could be my dermatologist or whatever. Who cares? But I'm like, well, this is an individual that doesn't have real problems. And I think as a human being, we're so used to having these survival threats that if you don't have a problem to focus on, you've got to make a problem that is something.
Yes, that is the human mind. It's so true. It's so true.
And it turns into that shit. And
yep.
Like, we have a contractor who's great, and I called him Flavius. And his name's Flavius.
I can't believe you did that. Wow.
To this, Mom, it still happens. I'm like, hey, Flav, hi, Flav. He's like, it's a Jill. I'm like, it's not okay. I'm so sorry. He's whiter than white. I mean, what if I called you Anna?
Oh, that happens all the time.
Jillian. Yeah. Like, it's just, and you can call it inconsiderate, but it isn't racist.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, my God.
I just think we have way bigger fish to fry.
Right.
And by going after Nancy Mace, by the way, Nancy Mace is a politician who has all sorts of views that I disagree with. Like, I'm not defending her because she's the homie and we agree on everything. No. It was a microcosm of a broader issue I see in the country where affluent people get to decide what the real debate is, when in reality, ordinary Americans of all shapes, colors, creeds, they're struggling out there. Okay, and the very people who have raised their hands to be public servants or journalists are doing the opposite. They're engaging in nonsense debates, you know,
King's honor, friend.
Stroking their own egos and ignoring the real problems that persist in this country. And they persist because of the tribal politics.
Be careful.
You know, if you're gonna be pressured into supporting Democrats because Republicans are scary and Donald Trump is a unique threat to the country, well then you're going to be forgiving about the failures of the Democratic Party. And that's been going on for a long time now. The Democrats have consistently campaigned on, you must vote for us because the other side is bad and scary.
Yeah, the never Trumpers. It's
right.
Like when I ask friends who are just dedicated to Kamala, like I've not seen it. They don't love what's happened up till now. What do you love? And I'm asking honestly. I'm like, tell me something that will inspire me about her. Not that you can read really well off of a prompter, which, by the way, is somewhat encouraging because at least we can pull it together when we need to. But I'm like, what do we love? And I either get, I'm a never Trumper, I really care about abortion, which I understand.
Yes.
But, on the same side, I find that the people on the right who are voting for Trump, it's because there's something equally as concerning to them. And I could draw parallels. So you're worried about your body, your abortion. Well, a person who didn't want the vaccine, I got the vaccine. I've had zero issues physically. However, a person that didn't want the vaccine, if you still caught it, and you weren't preventing someone else from getting it, then what the fuck do we care what you do with your body?
Well, I mean, I actually agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I didn't in the beginning because we were lied to, right? Like, we were told that the vaccine will stop the spread.
I agree, and I got it blindly.
Yeah, I got it. I also had no problems with the vaccine. I'm happy I got the vaccine. But the conflict among Americans stemmed from the idea that those who weren't getting it
would give it to someone else.
Yeah, we're continuing, basically prolonging this pandemic that could just end if these difficult people did the right thing and got the vaccine. That was the mindset. But then it turns out, no, that's not how it works. And it turns out you can still spread it, but the vaccine prevents you from getting ill, like so ill that you need to be hospitalized. And so, yeah, at the end, I mean, once you have a better understanding of how the vaccine works, I think people should be able to decide what to do. The only other issue was, whenever there would be a surge in COVID cases, those who weren't vaccinated would tend to get hospitalized in a lot of cases, and the hospitals were, like, just overwhelmed.
See, I didn't ever think about that part of it.
And so other patients who might
who
might need things like cancer treatments or stuff, like my mom is, she's got some illnesses and stuff, so it was a tough time because she wasn't able to get the treatment she needed on time when the hospitals were overwhelmed with COVID patients.
I appreciate, that's why you always bring me back to, because for me at the time, like I said, I got it. I didn't think twice about it. I was like, whatever, I gotta travel. I need to go to dinner. Just give me the shot. Let's get rolling. But when they were going after the people that didn't want it, it didn't make sense to me because I thought, like, I get your whole herd immunity thing. However, if I got it and it works, what do I care if Anna doesn't get it because I can't get it because I got it?
Right.
So that part already started to not make sense to me. Plus, I felt like, okay, hold on. For the majority of the population, this isn't that bad. If you're morbidly obese, maybe we should recommend it. If you're elderly, maybe we should recommend it. So I just was confused about why we were demonizing it, but I never thought about that point that you just made.
And, there's this, some people who don't really watch my content at all think that I was like part of the group who advocated for firing people who refused to get vaccinated or advocated for hospitals to reject COVID patients who didn't get vaccinated. I would never subscribe to that. But there were people on the left saying things like that, and I think it's unhinged. Like, it's again another example of dehumanizing people who you disagree with. And I get it, you might be frustrated with them, you might think they're doing the wrong thing, but maybe sit down and before you start doing the accusations and before you start getting combative, like, try to understand where they're coming from, right?
That's why I try to bring it back to something we really care about, like abortion. My body, my body, my body. They feel the same.
Yeah.
My body, my body, my body. I don't trust it. It's preliminary, it's a new technology, it's been around for 30 years, but new in this vaccine, there's some genuine cause for concern there. I've heard some horror stories, don't know, haven't dove in on it, try to stand somewhere in the middle because I literally know nothing. I believe the people who tell me their horror stories, and I think everything on the medical side is always a cost-benefit analysis. But just, my God, it was absolutely right, this crazy demonization and tearing apart of everybody. I wanted also to get to, in particular, journalism. That's where I was going with this. Okay, so you were talking about journalists that covered certain things a certain way. Health. Okay, this is where, because people are often like, what are you doing talking about this? I'm like, I don't know. Take me back to lunges and like six-pack abs. I have no idea how I've ended up here. Okay, so it starts out, I told you my little story of I don't celebrate obesity, and we were healthy in any size, and that was a very liberal position, which made no sense to me because you're not. It's not the truth. So that automatically kicks me out of the left. But then, as I began to try to speak about health and wellness, nobody would feature it in left-leaning or even center-left news outlets.
Oh, that's interesting. So you got canceled.
I got canceled, but then when they would talk about it, I was always anti-science or I was a fat shamer. And I'll never forget, there was this conversation with CNN about Ozempic. And I was saying, this disease does not exist in a silo. This is not just about obesity. Do you understand this is related to skyrocketing rates of autism and infertility and cancer? This is like, you're not solving any problems here. It's expensive, you plateau, there's side effects, blah, 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 bigger picture.
There's
and
our ride.
The anchor was like, well,
that ship's been commissioned by Hellscream himself.
Statins and this and that. And I said, well, first of all, I would argue that those are also lifestyle medications.
You're all under strict
which
orders.
Can
No harassing her crew.
Avoided if we change X, Y, and Z. I'm not saying that's easy. And she like, well, you know, that's why we have science.
I mean, so look, I just
step aboard,
I do hate that kind of thing.
Now.
Like, high blood pressure is hereditary, so is high cholesterol.
That's right.
But you
So-
can impact those things, and
can.
if you can't, then yes, get on the
Pay
medication.
no attention
100%.
to
I mean,
the,
both my parents have
diversity
high
of
blood
our crew.
pressure, high cholesterol. I remember the first
Rest
time I got a
assured,
high
they'll
cholesterol
deliver you
result
safely
back
to
after
your
doing, you know, my
destination.
lab work or whatever.
That
But did you have a
being
calcium
the fresh
score?
piece of land just
I
off the
don't
coast of the
remember,
Eastern
to be honest with you.
Did they put you on statins?
No. They,
Okay,
All right,
I
then.
was in.
Because that's
Get
a
ready,
before you
everyone.
get a calcium
Here we go.
score.
Yeah, no. I this happened in college, and at that time,
This ship
you know,
reeks of
I
human.
just wasn't. I was eating healthy, but I didn't take into account that both my parents have cholesterol and it's hereditary, so I should be a little bit careful with some of the foods I'm eating. Like eggs, for instance. I loved eggs.
So nuanced, though.
It is.
It is so nuanced, and you can forget it. I'm not going to interrupt you. We'll have a separate conversation about that.
Yeah.
But it's actually a very small percentage of the population, and yes, it is genetic, that can absorb cholesterol from their food.
Oh, don't
It
pay
does
Bud no,
happen,
never
contrary to
mind.
popular belief, and
Poor
I have
feller's
great
got a
episodes
few
of Dr.
screws
Roberts who
missing.
created the calcium score that I will send you.
Okay.
Please go on. Go
Okay.
on.
But you know, I just I don't want to take drugs for cholesterol or high blood pressure. And by the way, like I had 2 or 3 years ago 2 high blood pressure readings in a row, and the doctor told me, if you have a third one in a row, we're going to have to put you on something, because my mom had high blood pressure but didn't get the right treatment for it, so it messed up her kidneys. And so I did not want that to happen, but I started really looking into, okay, well, what can I do to keep my blood pressure lower without having to take medication? And I just started exercising more. I've always been into exercise, but I exercise more. A little more
Hear
careful
my
with
words,
like the foods I
brothers.
eat, the sodium intake, all of that.
We
I'm
sail to a
I
virgin
mean, I haven't had a high
island.
blood pressure reading in
gift
like
from
2 or 3
Azeroth
years now.
to the
So,
Horde.
Continuum.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Securing
like,
this
deal with it
land will
from a
win us
lifestyle
out.
perspective. And if not, then okay, of course.
Right.
The enemy
But my
has
point is
fought
simply not
well
even to debate blood pressure and heart disease and cholesterol.
But
It's the
they
fact that the
know.
narrative became
We shall
everybody
crush
on the
what
side of the
remains
crazy
of them
person,
and
now
lay claim to
we've gone
this
so
land.
far to say it's
From its
MAGA
shores
and
we
alt-right
shall
and not
conquer
exaggerating.
to be
Healthy.
And with it,
Really? Who says
any
that?
hope
Oh
the
my
enemy
God, where do you want to
clings to.
begin? Let me give
Really?
you 2 examples.
that's
Azeroth
insane.
will
does
be
anyone-
reforged under a single banner.
Like, okay,
This
So Lizzo is mad at
banner!
I guess so. I guess she's about to be mad.
That's
Okay,
hilarious.
2 examples for you. And there are numerous examples. So first of all, they won't feature it. If they do feature it, you're like crazy, anti-science. MSNBC just came out with an article saying that fitness, I have to laugh, is linked to the Nazis. I will send it to you, I swear to God. I actually retweeted it because I was like, what if you're Jewish? Would you like to
What
work
is
out?
the meaning
Where
of
do you
this?
fall? But here's a perfect example. So, again, we were at the Capitol
have a
nice to
battle
meet
to
you. With a
win.
group of MDs from
What the-
Harvard, Stanford,
Stand your
and Johns
ground,
Hopkins,
brothers.
PhDs, health advocates, giving a Senate hearing, testimony in the Senate. Long story short, nobody picks it up, but the Daily Mail Page 6, Fox, all of Fox. All of Fox. Fox and Friends, Jesse Waters, Gutfeld, Ben Kelly, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson. I'm like, I gotta call Bill. I need Bill to talk
Yes.
about this.
Maintain focus.
Except the Atlantic, who then
Keep
came out
a peaceful
and
mind.
said, MAGA meets woo-woo. It was totally nonpartisan. It had no other intention except to try and root out some of the corruption between big food, big farming, big pharma, big insurance, the fact that we have 10,000 chemicals in our food and 400 in Europe. How do you call that MAGA? What am I missing? Why are they doing this?
It's this, like, honestly, it's this brain rot of thinking that if you want to improve people's lives, right? Like, in this case, if you want people to get healthier, well, that by default means you are judgmental and hateful toward people who are either overweight or unhealthy, which is just not true. It's not, like, that leak, for some reason, exists, I think, that
That
exists.
was corporate advertising. I'm like, this has to be. Like,
It's
where is
nuts.
this coming from? And the part that I think, again, another big mistake, is that moms come to my kids, of course. Yeah. And if you tell them, the parents, about the fact that there's 10,000 different carcinogens in their child's breakfast cereal is MAGA,
Yeah.
you might just be signing them up.
I know. I feel like that's been happening. Why do you think someone like Trump has managed
The elements
to increase his
listen.
support among Black
Do
male
not let the
voters
darkness
and among
triumph.
Latino voters?
I don't know. Why?
Because the Democratic Party does not speak to them or their issues. Like, they...
What happened if you ain't black, or
Find
you're not
your
from me,
center.
you're not black?
And by the way, Trump does the same thing with Jewish people. He's like, you're not a good Jew if you don't vote for me because I did all these things in Israel. And it's
Oh,
like,
God,
not every
right.
Jewish American cares about Israel before they care about their lives here in America. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, good
You know,
point, good
yeah.
point. Touche, my friend.
But it's like, yeah, I just think the Democratic Party for a very long time has taken, you know, the black vote for granted, the Latino vote for granted. You know, there was this mind virus about how all Latino voters care deeply about the border in terms of, like, not doing what Trump is doing. And it's like, no, just because you're Latino doesn't mean you're in favor of illegal immigration. Like, what do you... I don't know. I think that the Democratic Party has not really been a party of bringing people in. It's been a party of, like, purging people who aren't 100% in line.
Yes.
And I think that various groups of people who traditionally would vote for Democrats are looking to be inspired and are looking for progress. They want to move forward. A lot of the conversation right now on the left is about judging people, blaming
Hello,
people,
friend.
going backwards,
Maintain
and
focus.
looking at what we've done wrong in the past and hyper-fixating on it,
Keep
and blaming
a
people
peaceful
today for what's
mind.
happened in the past.
Loktar.
You know, there's a... I feel kind of funny bringing her up now because she was involved in this big scandal. But
For the Horde.
there's a journalist named Olivia
Go
Nuzzi.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Victory.
Yes.
So she...
I haven't given it a ton of credit because it's like, I'm like, did they sleep together? No. Okay.
I know.
Moving on. Did you compromise the integrity of your work? No. Okay. Next.
Yeah.
Okay. But is there something there?
I mean, I'm actually, like, the most offensive thing about all of it is how beautiful she is and how she, like, what are you doing, girl? Like, I mean, come on. But I bring her up because she was viciously attacked because she wrote a piece about Biden's mental decline, which was obvious. It was like an open secret, and she honestly reported on that, and I'm happy she did so. But, like, she was viciously attacked by Democratic voters on social media. This mob went after her employers at Bloomberg. She's coming out with, like, some sort of series, and they were going to have this big PR campaign around it, but they scrapped it after these, like, hardcore Biden loyalists were furious that she would dare tell the truth about his mental decline, which, by the way, turns out is true, right?
Girl, they all said Scott Parkinson. Go back and watch my interview with Bill on his podcast in January of 24. I said, Bill, no, he's gone. He's like, oh, it's ridiculous. Like, Bill,
I know.
he's gone.
He's
cemented.
We were concerned all the way back in 2020.
Yeah.
And I remember getting, like, totally shut down. I mean, how dare you? This is ageism. And so we backed off because we thought maybe we're the crazy ones. Okay, fine, we'll back off. And then you just see the decline accelerate. And when he said he was going to run in 24 or 424, I'm like, no, this is nuts. Like, this is crazy. And we would never see him out and about. He doesn't give, as many speeches as former presidents, doesn't do media appearances. They were obviously trying to hide him from the public. But you can't hide him from the public when he's doing a debate.
By the way, who's running our country?
Yeah, I know.
Can I ask you, do you know?
Foreign policy is being run by Blinken.
Okay.
Secretary of State.
Okay, good. Tell me who's running things. I actually have I feel like an idiot because everyone asks it, but who is? Someone's got to be doing it.
I mean, it also kind of speaks to how populated that bureaucracy is.
Doesn't it, though?
Yeah, but it kind of gives me a little bit of peace knowing that. I mean,
that it's a think tank?
It's both bad and good because a bunch of unelected people are making decisions that we didn't ask for and we didn't vote for, so that's a problem. But it's also good in that people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but I genuinely believe it doesn't matter who gets elected.
Right.
It really doesn't matter.
I said the same thing, but I think the reason I say the same thing is not from any sort of probably angle you're coming from of like there's all these people behind the scenes in those positions.
Yeah.
To me, it's like you're voting for a billionaire. I mean, come on, there's Tim Walz standing next to Alex Soros. Elon Musk is giving Trump $45 million a month. And these guys are bought and paid for.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
You're voting for billionaires and whatever they want.
If you want to get a preview of how a president plans to lead, just look at who their donors are. And so I have no doubt that if Kamala Harris gets elected, she'll probably get rid of Lena Khan, who's the head of the Federal Trade Commission. Billionaires hate Lena Khan because she is breaking up monopolies, which, by the way, is excellent. We desperately need that. Consumers need more options, and we increasingly have less and less options because these big corporations are eating up all the smaller companies. I mean, take a look at how internet service providers work. Do you want to know how many options I have for internet service providers? One. Spectrum. That's it. That's a monopoly in our neighborhood. It's crazy. So they can do whatever they want. They increase how much I have to pay for internet every year. $10, $15, doesn't matter. I have no choice. Yeah.
Right.
So we need someone who has the agenda of wanting to break up monopolies or prevent monopolies from forming, but billionaires don't like that. So Reid Hoffman, he gave the whole game away during an interview where he's like, yes, I'm a big donor to Kamala Harris and I want her to get rid of Lena Khan.
Blood and thunder.
And so I have no doubt she will get rid of Lena Khan. She was paid to do it.
But so then when you talk to my mom, who is a lefty, I mean through and through, to the bone, I was raised by, but I'm like, Mom, what do you love? That she hates Trump so much. She thinks that he's Hitlerian. I said, there's no evidence, Mom. We did 4 years. He's not Hitler. And she doesn't know what you're talking about getting rid of the person who's breaking up monopolies. Nope. And she watches MSNBC and CNN. Actually, MSNBC went so far left, my mom actually gave up on it.
Oh, wow.
She was worried about illegal immigration, and they called her a white nationalist.
Yeah, that's crazy. What about the Black community in Chicago that's been furious about the influx of migrants because they need resources, but all the resources are going to the, influx of migrants who showed up.
Right.
And so they're like, wait a minute, we need housing. We need